Hey, welcome to my artichoke masterclass. We have some really beautiful artichokes. This is springtime peak artichoke season. There's a second one a bit later in the year. This is my favorite vegetable, flower. My earliest memory is of eating an artichoke or being fed an artichoke by my grandfather sitting on his lap. He was pretending to be a pirate and peeling off the leaves of one of these globe ones and feeding them to me, and it's remained just my favourite thing to eat and to prepare. If you haven't met one before, they can be a little bit intimidating. People don't necessarily know how to get into them, and I'm going to show you what to do with them. We have an array of them, which were donated very kindly by my friends at Natoora. Thank you, Natoora. And we're going to talk about the different kinds and how to clean them. This is the one you may be most familiar with. Look at it, it's beautiful. It's called a globe artichoke, and this is the commonest one that you'll see in the shops, in the supermarkets, big in the States, big in the UK, and they're big. And all of these other ones are European varieties. This is called mammolo, like mammary gland, tit, because it's like a big buxom tit. This is a variety, I don't know what it's called, which is pretty commonly found through the year. And these are some little ones, but they all have the same anatomy, and they are a bud of a compound flower, a thistle, and the bit that you eat is inside. It's like a prawn. It's got a shell on the outside that you need to get rid of to get to the good bit inside. Within it these are bracts, which are leaves associated with the flower, and within it at the bottom there's like a cup of flesh called the heart. And attached to the heart are loads of tiny little flowers. And when the artichoke is young, you don't have to worry about them. When it's older and more mature like this, that's the choke. It's like this fur inside which you can't eat. This kind is a bit different to the others because it's got such a tough outside. It's like the rhinoceros of artichokes, that you can't really eat the stalk. The stalk's got a lot of fibres in it. And this is the best kind for boiling whole and eating either hot or cold. And the way to prepare it for doing that is you snap the base off, and if it's got any fibres, you can see there are some here, this is a relatively young one, they'll come out when you snap it off. You put this in a pot, cover it with water, add maybe a few slices of lemon, quite a bit of salt. I like to weigh it down with some plates to hold it underneath the water, and you boil it until it's tender. You can feel with a skewer or something poked into the butt end. It takes probably about an hour for a big one like this to be tender all the way through. Drain it well, and then when you serve it whole on the plate like that. And the people who are eating it have to break off these leaves one by one, and the bottom bit of flesh on the leaf will come off more easily when it's cooked. Is tender. You scoop it off with your teeth until you get down to the heart. That really is the best preparation for these. You can clean them, like I'm going to show you how to clean these other artichokes and cook them in other ways, but this massive one is best boiled whole, served whole, and served with a vinaigrette or warm melted butter or hollandaise to dip the leaves in. It's really yummy. Artichokes protect themselves with a chemical. It's probably some kind of tannin. It's really bitter, and it browns and oxidizes when it comes into contact with the air. Before it's oxidized, it gives artichokes this amazing astringency, and when it oxidizes, it becomes horribly bitter. And the solution to that, when you're cleaning them, is this. The reason this is good for you, this lemon, is it's full of vitamin C, which is an antioxidant. So I have a bowl of water and vitamin C. And as I clean the artichokes, I put the clean bits in that water, and that will stop them from going brown. I'm going to dismember a couple of artichokes to show you what's inside, and then I'll show you how we clean them. This is the mammalo artichoke. To clean them, by the way, you need two knives, big one, small one. Mammalo artichokes in particular have this really thick stem, and the stem is delicious too. So we take off the bottom of the stem, which is gnarly, and you can see it started to turn brown. Chuck it away. Leave a bit of stem on the artichoke that we're going to clean, and then there's this long bit. I'm going to show you inside the artichoke right now. When you're preparing it, you don't cut them in half, but I want to show you what's inside it. I'll show you another artichoke as well, what's inside it for comparison. That was a little earwig which was inside one of them. That's the inside of the artichoke, and you can see it's shaped kind of like a cupped pair of hands, like this. And the thing to remember with an artichoke, with all of them, is that if it's green, like bright green, it's going to be tough and you need to get rid of it. And if it's yellow, or mostly yellow, and then it's going to be tender. So when we're cleaning the artichoke, the aim is to get rid of all the green stuff, so off the outside here, and to leave the tender bit. But because there's not that much tenderness relative to the tough stuff on an artichoke, there's a lot of waste. You'll see when we trim them down. You need to be careful to take off everything that needs to come off, so you don't ruin what's left, but not take off anything that shouldn't have come off. And I'll show you on one of these artichokes. It will be the same in one of these. You can tell by the shape they're longer. If I cut it down the middle, it's the same as the round one, but a kind of different proportion. So the round one inside was like this, like a diamond, you might say, a commercial diamond that was cut properly. And this one is much more elongated, kind of like this on the inside. And that's important to remember when you're cleaning them. The traditional way to clean an artichoke, I'll show you if you like on a small one, is to break off the leaves. So you hold it upside down and you pull the leaves away. I'll do it backwards so that you can see. You'll do it away from yourself. So you pull off the outer leaves, and it doesn't take that long. And when you start reaching ones which are tender, instead of pulling them off and you lose this little tender base bit at the bottom, you bend them back on themselves, snap the leaf, and then pull down. So you'll pull off the outer tough bit of the leaf, and you keep on going until you reach a point when most of the leaf is tender. And trim the top off. And that is a roughly cleaned artichoke, but there's still some green bits on the outside, and that's what I've got this small knife for. I can pare around the bottom. And that's cleaned. I can show you on a mammals artichoke how to do the same thing. These are going there. Right, where's my mammals? Here we go. So I've got my mammals artichoke. I take off these leaves because these are just rubbish. I'm going to take off my stem. I'll show you what to do with that later. That's about half the meat of the artichokes in the stem for a mammals. And you can just break off the base leaves quite violently. You can take a few at a time as well if you like. The bottom couple of layers. And then when they start having a tender base, you bend back, bend back and pull. So kind of snap the inside part by bending the leaf back, and then pull down to take off the tough bit. Bend and pull, bend and pull. And you keep on doing that, 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 and you keep on doing it, and you keep on doing it, and you keep on doing it, and you keep on doing it. Okay, until you reach a point where most of the leaves are pretty tender. And then you cut at the border between the dark pigment there and the light pigment. So everything on this side of the knife is going to come off and be rubbish, and everything on this side of the knife will leave on. One cut, and there is my roughly cleaned artichoke. But you can see I've still got loads of green on the stem and on the base. So that's when I take my little knife and I cut down the sides of the base. I'm doing this in not the most comfortable way for me, but the way that I think you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I cut around, I kind of pare off all the dark green bits, taking off everything that looks like it's going to be tough to me, and leaving everything that's looking tender. Now artichokes are not only edible raw, they're delicious raw. So if you're not sure about something, you can eat it. And see, if it's tough and fibrous like that, then it was right to come off. And if it's tender, it shouldn't have come off. You can also check with your fingernail. You'll be able to get your fingernail in quite easily into the tender bit and not so easily into the tough bits. But there we have a cleaned artichoke. There is another way, and this is my favourite way of cleaning artichokes. I'm going to show you first on one which is cut open what you're trying to achieve, and then I'll show you on both a marmolot and a regular artichoke how to do it quickly with a knife. So the cleaned version of the artichoke, for a long artichoke, is kind of sharpened like a pencil. And you take the top of the leaves off, and then the same on the bottom end. You clean the stem. It's a bit hard to do on a half one, it's much easier on a whole, I'll show you. And you clean the base. Okay, that's the tender bit of the artichoke, and it's kind of, you can see what I've done there because it's cut in half, but I'll show you how to do it on a whole one. For the marmolot, it's different. You're not sharpening a long pencil, but it's like this diamond shape that we've saw before. So you're sharpening here, you can see the tender part of the leaf. Here I'm cutting off the tender part of the leaf. I'm cutting off the tough part of the leaf. And here, I won't clean around the back, you just need to see there. That's the clean bit that we're trying to get. So I'll show you on a whole artichoke how we do that. We are going to trim the top half of the artichoke first and then the bottom. And we're going to start with a big knife. And the place we're going to make our cuts, I'm going to do it on the board, but we're going to cut this way to kind of sharpen the top of the artichoke. And that's at quite a flat angle for the marmolot, because remember, it's like this inside. We're trying to cut along this surface. It's like this inside. So we trim there, and then we're going to trim there, and then using the small knife, we'll trim the base and the stalk. And I can do that quite quickly. So I cut along the top, and I can see from my first cut, I can see inside the artichoke which bits are going to be tender because they're yellow and which are going to be tough because they're green. So I do the top first in a few cuts around. Then I'm going to do the side. And I find this much quicker than the breaking method, and I also get a neater result. And then I'm going to do the base. I'll clean the stalk like so, and I'll clean around the base, much like I was peeling an apple really, the old-fashioned way with a knife. And there I have a cleaned artichoke. At the top. On this one, if the inside leaves curl inwards, I don't know if you can see that, they're curling in at the tip. The tips, which would have been normally cut off when I cut the top, have gone into the artichoke, and they're going to be tough. So I can just scoop them out, just the very tips of the leaves, because those will be tough. And there I have a beautifully cleaned artichoke. I'm going to add this to my pile of artichoke debris, which by the end of it is going to be a mountain. And I'll show you the same thing on one of these guys. This is the long artichoke. So remember, on the marmolot we had a squat low artichoke. Our first cut was kind of this angle. This is longer, and we're going to sharpen the inside like a pencil lead at this angle. So I start by doing that. Okay, so I've cleaned the top layer of leaves. I'm going to trim the top. I might as well do that now. tender there, tender there. Here obviously I've got the tough dark green leaves, and I go around the outside. Being careful, it does take a bit of practice to be able to do this quickly or accurately, but remember you're trying to get rid of everything tough and leave everything that's tender. So now from here to here I'm clean, from here to here I'm not. I'm going to clean the stem on the outside, just taking off the outside maybe 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters of stem, so a bit thicker than a peeling, but leaving as much as I can. And now I'm going to do the base, taking care to cut the artichoke and not to cut myself. Okay, there you have it, a perfectly cleaned artichoke. If these were older and less beautifully young and tender, and I'd know that because the leaves were a bit more open or a bit more browned at the tip, the choke, which is in here, would be long and obviously fluffy, and then you don't want to eat it, and you can remove it just with the tip of a knife or with a spoon. But in these it's young and it's delicious. The last thing I'm going to show you is the stalk, and really it's only on mamola artichokes that you need to worry about the stalk. You just peel off the outside of it. And what remains is tender and has to go into my lemony water because that will also go brown. I'm not going to show you how to cook any of these today, but with these bits, the tender bits, there is a lot that you can do. You can shave them super fine and have them either as a carpaccio or tossed as a salad. The ones which are most prized for having raw are the small ones. These, which in the Veneto they call castraure, or castrations, because in order to get one big artichoke at the top of the plant, you pull off all the baby ones at the bottom, and it leaves all the energy to go off and make one big one. So you can take these little castrations and clean them and shave them raw, and they're delicious. Artichokes are wonderful pickled, especially the stalks. To pickle them, you boil them until a bit crunchy, so salted water, maybe 5 minutes, and then slice them and then toss them with a little bit of vinegar and oil. All artichokes are delicious, pan-fried with meats, with chicken, with escallops, with offal, with liver. You can grill them, especially if you poach them or steam them first. You can slice them and toss them in flour and deep fry them. You can cook them. A very good way of cooking them is upside down like this, with a little bit of water to that level, a bit of oil, some salt, maybe some lemon, garlic, seasonings. Romans sometimes stuff herbs in them. And you cook them with the lid on until the water evaporates and the top part steams, and they're really delicious. There are a million things that you can do with artichokes, but the first step is to clean them. And if you clean them, you get this. And it's not hard. You just have to understand how the artichoke is made. Hard bits on the outside, soft bits on the inside, fucking delicious.